answer your question, can you invest in a franchise and not buy yourself a job? 100% yes. You have to invest in the right franchise that has the right structures, systems, tools, and technology in place, and that allows for what we'll call a semi-active owner.
Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where it's our goal to take your income, your investments, and your life to the next level. I'm your host, Chris Larson. If you haven't yet, get a copy of our book for free at our website, nextlevelincome.com. That's www.nextlevelincome.com. Just click on the book link, and I'll even send you a copy if you put your address in. On today's podcast, I welcome back Kim Daly. Kim is one of America's leading franchise consultants, the creator of KimDaly.tv, and the voice behind Create Wealth Through Franchising Podcast. A former fitness entrepreneur and consultant to brands like Gold's Gym and eDiets.com, Kim built the largest franchise consulting business in history using her signature mindset system, the Daly Plan, which we're going to dive into today. She's also the founder of the Z-Suite, a transformative platform designed to support and elevate high-performing franchisees. She's deeply passionate about helping others design lives of freedom, wealth, and purpose through entrepreneurship. She lives on the beach in New Hampshire with her 2 teenage sons and recharges her energy with fitness, skiing, and an unshakable commitment to personal growth. And you're going to want to listen to this entire podcast to hear Kim's incredible story. Kim, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Chris. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's always great to see you. And you were one of the few that's been come back for the second time here.
It's
I believe
daily
it is.
double.
There we go. Oh, I don't know if everybody gets that reference, but I get it. So that's good.
Trademarked.
There you go. You should. Well, Daily DALY has you can get that one.
I get away with it.
Yeah. So some of my audience may know you from your first appearance, but I'd love for you to do a little bit of your background for those that haven't heard you before, and before we dive in here.
Okay, so Chris, I'm a franchise consultant. So what does that mean? For over 20 years, I have been helping people understand how a franchise can help them build wealth of time and money freedom. So people come to me at some crossroad in their life. Maybe they are, fear losing their job. They've lost their job. They hate their job. Alternative investor like your community, and they're looking for another way to diversify their income, create more tax advantage, build greater equity, greater cash flow. Sometimes, as alternative investors, we can get very net worth rich and cash flow poor. A business is the perfect solution to that. So going out and starting a business on your own is like the riskiest thing you can do. But when you come and you really look at franchisepreneurship, where we can buy down the learning curve of buying a business or starting a business because we're partnering ourselves with people who've already figured out how to make money, that really becomes the key that helps a lot of people unlock the dream to own a business and add a business into their portfolio. So I've been blessed to do that for 23 years. I've created nearly 1,000 small business owners here in the United States of America. It's amazing. It's a legacy behind me that just keeps on giving. I'm so blessed, so blessed. And I just love coming on shows like this and sharing what I know and inspiring people to their dreams, because a lot of people, Chris, have so many limiting beliefs about franchising. Yeah. And that's really the platform that I come to speak on, is help people move away from those, myths and misconceptions and be like, maybe I should explore a franchise.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to explore that today, but you touched on a couple other things, Kim, that I think are as or even more important. And, one is that mindset that, I want to talk about. But the other one is, I don't think a lot of people realize that the majority of, millionaires, multimillionaires, billionaires, they got their wealth, number one, through business, number two, through real estate. So business is truly the greatest wealth builder in this country. And, the other thing, and you just mentioned, you created almost 1,000 small business owners. I was looking at statistics. Large businesses typically decrease jobs. Businesses buy other companies, they economize. That's one of the reasons stock prices go up when, mergers occur and those sorts of things, because they can be more efficient. But really, small businesses create almost all the jobs in the country. We could say, the government creates jobs, but who funds the government? It has to be private citizens, right? So I think it's amazing, when you're helping create those businesses, they're helping to create all those other jobs. But talk a little bit about, how businesses play into, the portfolio, the wealth of people in America.
Can I talk about my own portfolio, I'll tell you how it works for me.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I'm an alternative investor. I'm financially free. And the definition of I have more passive income coming into my home takes me to pay my bills. And that may
Yeah.
not be true if you include like the marketing budgets to grow my businesses. But as
Yeah.
it turns out, if I just decided not to work anymore, run no more business, I have
Yeah.
more than enough money to live off of. So in the true definition of financial freedom.
There
So
you
that
go.
happened to
Great
me in about
example.
4 years, right? So what happened to me, Chris, I met a guy who was looking at a franchise and he was 36 years old and he had an $8 million net worth. So his name's Ryan. I call him my goat. So I remember getting the courage to be like, Ryan, did you inherit money? Like, I've never seen a net worth on a guy who's 36 years old like this. Like, what do you
Yeah.
do? And he was like, oh, no, I'm an alternative investor. And this was like back in 2017. I was like, an alternative investor? What's that? Well,
Yeah.
that day that he's my goat because he thinks I changed his life because I added franchising into his portfolio. Let me tell you,
Wow.
I got the better end of that deal. He changed my life by throwing this term out, alternative investor, which I quickly became well studied at. What does this mean? I
Yeah.
started looking for people. I started looking for ways to deploy money. I set up 2 infinite banking policies. I put that money to work for me. And the best part of this whole story is so I've got real estate and self-storage and all the different diversified assets in an alternative investing portfolio, a little oil and gas in there, some crypto. But
Love it.
when I was looking for places to deploy money, a franchise company came to me to raise money and said, we want to put you on the board, but you got to give us nearly $1 million. So like you buy equity into our company but we're going to give you, this is going to return to you 6 figures. And I was like, so it's literally because I was on the wavelength. That opportunity never came to me before that. And it hasn't come to me since. Now, those
Wow.
people make good on that. And that one business investment is the one that changed my life. It's
Wow.
the one that made me financially free. The others return, 2,500 and 5,000 and a quarter
Yeah.
or a month, whatever. And all those are great and it adds up. But that one business that I was able to become a shareholder in that has amazing quarterly dividends literally retired me and then some. So
That's
you have to
amazing.
kind of get in the environment when people are like,
Yeah.
how did you do it? I'm like, just you got to get in the game. You got to
Yeah.
start meeting people and asking questions because you'll find that when you get on that wavelength, like attracts like, and you will attract opportunities to you that from the sideline will never come your way. So the
Absolutely.
business is the greatest part, as you said, of this alternative investing portfolio. I now personally own 2 companies. One is a franchise, one I'm an entrepreneur in. And then again, I'm a passive investor in another franchise company, a shareholder. And then I have investments like I'm sure many of the listeners of your show do in real estate syndication and car wash and self-storage and land and crypto and oil and gas. I think that
Yeah.
might be it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And that's, I just talked to a friend who's also a coaching client this morning. And, he said, we were talking, he's like, hey, he just had his first baby. So now he's really starting to figure out like, oh, what should I do with my money? And he's like, yeah, like 85% of my money is in the stock market. The rest is cash. So he's basically 100% invested in the stock market. And, we just had a conversation about, what wealthy portfolios look like. And, most people don't know this, but the wealthy, we're talking about centimillionaires, those worth 100 million or more, and wealthier, they're only investing maybe 20%, maybe 25% in the stock market. The rest is in fixed income, alternatives, businesses, like you're saying, real estate is the
Cash
second biggest.
cow.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can create the velocity
Yeah.
faster. So now I have all
Yeah.
this extra cash flow that I don't
Yeah.
need to live off of. So what do I do with it? I deploy it
The
back
giant
into
flywheel. Yeah.
more passive investments, or in my case, I'm building a new business. So I'm deploying it into the launch and start of this business, but it allows me for some greater inertia behind those things because I have
Yeah.
so much overflow of cash. Like, really, this is a really high class problem.
But you've created that
Nobody
flywheel.
really says that. It's like a woman
Yeah.
saying, I need to lose any more weight. Like, seriously.
Well, I don't think you need to lose any weight either. So you got two
No.
things going for you. But no, but so I love it. I love it, Kim.
Um,
So I think first off, it obviously, businesses undoubtedly create a tremendous amount of wealth. But the one thing that, and you can see this, I see it in my coaching clients, people have mentioned it to me. the most important thing is you have a high income career, you have a high income business that's kicking off that cash to give you that ability. I just talked to my younger son's class before school ended last year, and they wanted me to come in and talk about money and different things. And we ended up the conversation ended up focusing on what summer jobs were the kids going to go out
Oh,
and do.
fun.
Because I said, hey, like you want to invest, that's great. We talked about investing in different things and real estate and stock market. But if you want to invest, what do you have to have? You have to have money. Unless you're given a big pot of money that I didn't get that. I don't think you got that. How do you create it? So, a lot of people that I find now, they've created that high income job, but they feel stuck. They're like, Chris, I don't know if I want to do this. I'm 45. I don't know if I want to do this another 20 years. I've got all these skills. I'm thinking maybe I start a business, maybe I do something, but they don't really know how to do it. They don't know what to do. And that's what you help people do through your business is you help people find a turnkey way to start their own businesses. So let's talk about, what franchises are and, how you help people create them.
Great segue. Okay. So yes, as a franchise consultant, when you come to me, the first thing I want to know is what does your life look like in 3 to 5 years, right? Like
Yeah.
you want change in your life, and I want to provide vehicles that
Yeah.
can drive those outcomes. So nobody's really waking up saying, oh yeah, my dream is to own a franchise, right? Nobody
Yeah.
says that. Even if you're in fitness or you're passionate about the widget or the product, it's not about the passion for the widget or the product. It's about the outcomes that you get from the business ownership. We all want time and money freedom. So we're
Yeah.
going to paint a picture of your future life, personally, professionally, and
Love it.
financially. Who do you want to become through this journey called business ownership? And that's really what it is. I think
Yeah.
business ownership is the greatest adult playground. I have learned more about myself. I'm a better person by failing forward every day as a business owner. I don't even own the word failure anymore. I'm like, it's just a lesson. When something isn't going right, it's not failure. It's like, oh, what can I learn from this? Because the
What can you
more I
learn?
can
Yeah.
learn, the more I can become, the more I can become, the better I can serve. Better I can serve. Guess what, Chris? The more money I can make. So
Absolutely.
it's all flows back though to it not going right, not
Yeah.
just always being easy and going right.
Can I
So when you
can I
come,
pause on that real quick?
yes.
I think that's such an important lesson, and it's one that we try to instill in our boys. And I forget who I heard it from, but they said, every evening at the dinner table, we ask our kids, what was one success, but what was one failure. So they normalize failure. They want their kids to talk about failure. So we started doing that. And when they were young, we called them roses and thorns, right? Like what was something good, what was something
Oh yeah.
that happened. And now, as my sons, as we were talking about, we have a couple sports in common with our kids, but that's what we always say. It's like, well, hey, yeah, you lost the game, but like, what did you like? Did you play your best? What did you learn? That player was better than you. What did you take from it? And that's one of the things my older son, as he gets to a higher level, it's like, hey, you're going to lose a lot, you know, so you've got to figure out, okay, you've got to
Any
embrace
business
those.
owner, you're going to lose a lot.
Yeah, and
It's a
and
fact.
bike, yeah, bike racing, investing in general, like stocks, everything, right? So, there's a lot of losses there. So if you're a parent, especially out there, make sure you talk about failure with your kids, and you make it okay, and you help them fail forward. So I just wanted
You
to
don't want to
emphasize
lose
that point.
money. Like that's where everybody's really
Correct.
is. And I
Yeah.
totally get that. But
Yeah.
we're talking about the ready daily losses, right? Like I
Yeah.
lost the client, or hey, I didn't get the
Yeah.
sale, or I'm talking about
Yeah.
those, like those
Yeah.
those are lessons that we learn
Yes.
from in business ownership. They're not really failures.
Absolutely. I love that. So
Yeah.
sorry I stopped your flow there, but I
No,
thought that
so
was
good.
super important. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. So we're just talking about how when you come to me, you're at a crossroad. We
Yeah.
want to define your goals. So a lot of
Yeah.
times conversation starts with, well, I really like fitness. So what do you have in the gym space? Or, hey, have you eaten at Crumble? I really love to own one of those. Or Chick-fil-A, that's the one that people throw out. And I'm like, okay. This is a great way to start a conversation, but this isn't a strategic investing strategy, right? So
Yeah.
we want go back to who do you want to become personally, professionally, and financially? How do you want to be used in the business? What kind of customers do you serve? What kind of schedule do you want to have? So we're going to define what your life looks like as a business owner. And then with my 23 years of relationship knowledge and experience, I'm going to align those opportunities to your characteristics. I do all the territory mapping before so that we know that where you live is open and viable. So you're not going to have to commute 30 minutes to an open territory or worry like, I don't know, is my area going to work for this? You may still worry, but the franchisor has criteria for what makes a market viable or not. And if they're saying, hey, no, this territory is viable, then it's between you and them for them to sort of convince you based on their demographics and their history and track record, why they believe your area is a market that will work. And then when you get out there and you get to validate other owners who live in markets that are demographically similar to yours, that's really where you'll hear it, right? Like I always say, we don't hear with our ears, we hear with our emotions. So people have a lot of fear over investing in a business. So there's a lot of, stopping. There's a lot of like brick walls that people hit, and territory not being viable is a big one. And I smile when I say it, but I'm not laughing at anybody. I've just done this for 23 years and it's totally normal to feel that way. Yeah. And so what we do is help you remove that fear through some logical data and some information. The fear just comes because you just don't know. It's like gray and it feels chaotic. But once we put some order in your mind, then you're like, oh, okay. And especially when you hear it from other people who've already made this decision and they're still breathing and they're happy and knowing what they know now, they would do it again. That's typically when candidates are like, okay, well, I talked to that person and they're doing it. So I'm starting to feel comfortable that we can do it too. And it's all part of this two-month process that I take people through when I work with them to explore options.
I love that. That's the same thing we do with our coaching is we model out a 3-year vision and then reverse engineer how to get there. And, I always tell people like, if you want to achieve something, if you want to be something, don't go ask people that haven't done it, hey, do you think this is a good idea? Find somebody that has become the person that you want to become. Whether it's, going back to, my son, hey, go talk to somebody that's playing D1 lacrosse. Ask them about the process. Talk to somebody that has actually bought an apartment building and invested in those before you do it. Talk to Kim, and other franchise owners that have done this and do that. So,
on that point, that's why I love, I share my story of becoming financially free, because I believe that every single person who reaches out to me wants what I'm quote selling, which isn't franchising, it's freedom.
It's freedom.
It's
Absolutely.
Freedom via a business, right? Yeah. And buying down the learning of a business through a franchise. So, but I love to be the role model. I'm just not working for a company telling you to go buy a business. I'm a business owner. My entire life, actually. I started my first company when I was 25. I've never really worked for anybody else. So there's that. And I have 27 years of business ownership experience. And then now I'm an alternative investor who moved her money fast enough to create financial freedom in a very short amount of time. And that in itself is inspiring. I'm a single mom, so especially if I'm talking to another single mom, like there's power in that. So I'm not just like some expert talking at you. I'm like, hey, we're like girlfriends or we're just peers, we're having a conversation about how to figure out the game of life and build what we want, which is time and money freedom and a legacy.
That's another great point. That's something I taught my sales reps when I was in medical device sales. Don't go in and sell a product. Find out what the surgeon in our case, what are their practice goals? What are they trying to achieve in the OR? What are their challenges that they're facing? Help them solve that problem. And again, that's a business. These investments are ultimately a vehicle to provide, like you said, financial freedom, which is really time freedom. Ultimately, when you do that. So let's talk a little bit about like working, because some people may hear franchise and like I see this like going to Chick-fil-A. You see the owner like there, like the owner operator, like their manager in there. Can you own a franchise and not work in it? Like how does that work?
Amazing question. So let's just start with the little Chick-fil-A piece. So Chick-fil-A and 7-Eleven are two special snowflakes. They're not a franchise I would ever lead you to. Those are a 50-50 revenue share with a corporate entity. So the reason
Interesting.
Chick-fil-A is a $10,000 investment is because Chick-fil-A corporate owns the real estate and the building and
Gotcha.
50% of the business. What I think they are doing is they are giving an opportunity to lifetime restaurant managers who will never have enough money to own their own restaurant. And they're bringing them in as sweat equity partners for 50% ownership. But here's the downside to all of that, Chris. I believe a business is built to be sold. It's like building equity in your home and then sitting on it and never selling it, right? If it's like $2 million in equity in your home, I mean, don't be attached to your home, sell it and get the money and run, right? Especially if it's tax-free money. Well, the same thing in a business. If you built, let's say, a durable medical equipment, we sell that like for senior care, like, lifts and ramps and the things that people need to remain independent living in their home. That's a franchise. So let's say that you've built this massive territory that's we'll make it up $3 million top line, and maybe you're netting 20%. So you're taking home $600,000 a year. And let's say that a big nursing home wants your customer database and what you know. And so they come along and say, we'll pay you 4 times your 600, 2.4 million to go away. Take the money and run. So going back to Chick-fil-A, you don't have an entity to sell. You're leaving all that money in the hands of Chick-fil-A. When you decide you're done, you're done. 7-Eleven is the exact same way.
And that's a job, because that's what, as a sales rep working for a company, I could grow that business and sell a $6 million a year, but I can't sell the $6 million a year business. I just leave it. And it's,
so you have it's like solopreneurship. I mean, you have equity in that you have time, it's your business. You can call the shots. You get to your team, you get that autonomy, but you're not really fully owning what you own in in all of the other franchises. So to answer your question, can you invest in a franchise and not buy yourself a job? 100% yes. You have to invest in the right franchise that has the right structures, systems, tools, and technology in place, and that allows for what we'll call a semi-active owner. Now, I want to say this because the definition of semi-active gets a lot of people in trouble in franchising. I have multiple videos on this one definition on my YouTube channel because it's controversial. And here's why it's controversial. In textbook definition, if you want to keep your job and run a business semi-actively, they're going to say you need in the beginning 20 to 30 hours on it with a full-time general manager in it. Now, that definition could mean more or less depending on you, depending on your business acumen, depending on your ability to hire the right general manager and then lead, depending on your ability to invest your money and leave it in the hands of other people when you're at work. So a business at its core is an energy. It has a feeling and a culture to it. And owners who bring energies of lack, frustration, fear, because they're not there and they're not fully owning it. They are clouding their beautiful business with a filter in which you cannot create abundance from. So I've been named in a lawsuit, 1 out of 23 years, not bad, but it really sucked. And it was really all around this definition of semi-active ownership. Now, as an energy coach, I know 100% why people want to do it because it sounds great. I can keep my job. I can invest in a business. They hear what they want to hear when it's all good and they're hopeful. Then they get in there and the reality of building it is different. That doesn't mean that they were oversold, but that's what they want to believe. That's what some people want to believe. And so I just want to massage the conversation now, and we'll massage it again. The long and short answer is 100%. You can keep your job. It's the number one way that I help people. It's a special class of businesses. And I tee up your mindset to be ready to be that special class of owner who's ready to really be conscientious. It's really radical responsibility. Owning what's yours to own. Franchisors, by and large, are not failing when franchises fail. It's franchisees mostly in my world, luckily. And it's franchisees really where they're losing it. They're not following the process. They're losing it right here, Chris, between their ears. They're thinking, they're overanalyzing, they're based in logic, they're based in fear, they're thinking from scarcity, they're thinking from competition. Well, you can't create anything abundant and good from those type of thoughts.
Great point. And you've built a whole community around this. You mentioned you're an energy coach. Let's talk a little bit about that, Kim, because I think, mindset is super important. One of the most consequential books I read early on was Think and Grow Rich. And I still go back and read it. I love that book. I know you've mentioned Joe Dispenza in our conversations in the past with respect to that. I think, mindset is super important. And, you mentioned energy. I think life's an energy game. So how do you help people get the right mindset, around money, around ownership, around, being, having the right energy for their teams and approaching that the right way?
Such a great question. So I have built a whole new coaching platform called the Z Suite, because franchisees are called franchisees. So it's ZEE.
Oh yeah.
The Z Suite. Instead of the C Suite, we're talking about the Z Suite.
Yeah.
But really, it's an entire mindset platform for the entire franchising industry. I actually coach franchisors. I have other consultants. Anybody in the franchising industry that wants to level up their game.
Yeah.
So in franchising, this is an industry that sells strategy. Well, in my best equation, I can get strategy only 20% of your success equation. How you think, how you talk, and how you act with those tools, that strategy, that's what determines the outcome that you get. And this is again, it all centers back to like me not being some expert talking at you, but like I've lived this. So I spent 8 years as an average performing consultant doing about $250 a year, which is nothing to like, sneeze at. It's pretty good income.
Yeah.
But I had $1 million dream. And in my 9th year, I decided to dream the $1 million dream. And when I thought from the $1 million dream, I had an inspired idea of how to change my actions in my business. And that inspired action led me in my 9th year of business to growing by 350%. I went from $250 a year to $1,004.28 from 2010 to 2011. Now, my franchise process never changed. It's been the same for 20 years. The recession was still happening from 2010 to 2011. There was nothing external to me. My skill set did not even increase from 2010 to 2011. There were no external levers that changed my reality. What changed my reality was getting clarity and asking for what I wanted, $1 million, thinking from $1 million owner, getting an inspired idea and daring to take action on it, and then using my will, my discipline, my tenacity, and my grit to follow through on this one idea. So there were days when I wanted to do it, like going to the gym, right? There's days when you feel like it and there's days when you don't. But I had the intuitive idea, stay the course. Do it when you knew you need leads. Do it when you don't need leads. Well, the result of that is I made history in franchise consulting. More importantly, though, I made history for me.
Yeah.
So since 2011, when I had that breakthrough, this is what the world would say. Oh, Kim, it's not magic. It was a math problem. You tripled your pipeline. You tripled your financial result. And if you're thinking logically, I'll give it to you. All business is a math problem. But that's not what happened. There was something much, much more deeper and magical. Because here's why it wasn't a math problem. If it was purely me grinding it out, at some point in the last 13 years, I would have burned out.
Yeah.
It wasn't me grinding it out. I didn't work harder to make $1 million. I worked smarter.
Yeah.
I worked from a new energy level, the energy of $1 million. I worked from my 4D imagination. So once I did this, I became obsessed with like, what had I actually done? When a miracle happens in your life, and let's be real, growing your business by 350% in your 9th year of business, that's a freaking miracle. So I became obsessed with like, what did I actually do? And I started diving into all the personal development books like Think and Grow Rich and The Science of Getting Rich, The Secret, the Strangest Secret, and the Bible. And I mean, so many amazing, amazing books. And I took courses, I watched podcasts. I was obsessed with it to the point where 13 years later, about 2 years ago, I felt the calling to be ready to coach, because here I am. I took that $1 million, what once was a history making year. I turned it into 6-month income. I turned it into 3-month income. I cut my hours in half. I still did it. Last year I was on sabbatical. I still made $1 million. Like This is the work
Yeah.
that I teach in the Z Suite. Why, when I'm on sabbatical, not even focused on building my business, that I perform at what is my minimum level? I'm $1 million consultant. Why? Because it's a definition of who I am. So I literally became a new person,
Love
new
it.
beliefs about my worth.
Yeah.
And that's when change is lasting and permanent. So the person who goes out and goes to the gym and efforts to lose 100 pounds and they drudge their way through it and they starve themselves, and you see them 2 years later and they gained all the weight back and then some, because they went through the logical, mechanical work.
Yeah.
And all they really had to do was look in the mirror and decide, I love me the way that I am, let go of all of the negative story, and love themselves into help. And that same 100 pounds would fall off because they would naturally take the actions of a healthy person when they're thinking from health versus I'm a problem that needs to be fixed and I need to get my butt to the gym or I'm lazy. So it's these subtle shifts, Chris, that as business owners, we all do it. I am no better than anybody. This is why I love the C-suite, because the more I get to coach on it, maybe the more I can hold my own frequency higher, because we all lose the deal and melt down. The door closes and we think life is over. The nanny quits and we think, well, now I can't start the business. Like somebody just said that to me today. I was like, what does that have to do with that? Right? It's just fear. And it's our logical mind, which is there to protect us, to keep us safe, because we were built to survive, right? And so safety is known. When everything in your environment is known, your body is safe. But when you're trying to step out and grow,
it's scary.
Maybe you're going against your biology. So you have to recognize fear. I say, put your arm around it and be like, I got you. I understand you. You're in the back seat. Because I don't want to be safe. I want to grow. And to grow, I have to step into the unknown. And that's what we do in the Z Suite. The more you do it, the more you exercise faith. It's like a muscle.
Yeah.
The easier it gets, the stronger it gets to believe. I can believe for the big things. I could tell you some crazy stories. I manifested $300,000 in 30 days, and I gave it all to the church because I made a commitment to God. I was in a slump in my business. And I had this dream in my heart to buy a home for someone. It's a longer story than that, but that's the gist of what happened. And the pastor of our church stood in front of us and said, and I'm like, how do you buy a home for somebody? Like, because you think if they, like that show, you give them a home and then they can't pay the taxes on it. And
our church did that. After
and so I had this dream in my heart, but I didn't know how to do it. So I'm at church and the pastor stands up and says, we're going to raise money to either renovate our soup kitchen and clothing closet or to build a new building. I said, that's how you build a new building. That's how you buy a home for somebody and not just one somebody. So I felt the calling. I'm going to be the biggest donor, if not the donor. So I asked, how much money do you need? He said, $500,000. I said, okay, I'm going to be the biggest donor. That I went back to my office and I said, I've never done it. I've never made 300. This is not my reality, by the way. $300,000 in a month. It's not my reality. But it was October 4th. Few years ago.
Yeah.
And I committed myself to $300,000. And I said, if I do this, I'm going to give it all to that. And I'm going to accomplish a bucket list of buying not just a house for one person. And that's how God outdoes our dreams. Because my dream in my limited mind was buy a house for some deserving veteran or somebody who just is like a good single mom who just needs a break, a lucky break. And I want to come in and God way outdid that. So long story short, $300,000 in a month. So, but it takes time for all that money to be reconciled into my actual bank account. And so on Christmas Eve, we have a picture and it's actually on the suite under Real Stories by Real People. It's a manifestation story of me handing a check for I took out a little bit of tax, $250,000 to the pastor of our church. I was the number one donor for that renovation and
amazing.
2 things accomplished in one, and all because I believed without doubt.
Well, I love that I didn't stop you in the middle of that. And I don't know any better way to end than that story. So I think we're gonna wrap it up here, Kim. But if people want to learn more about what you do, if they want to touch base with you and learn about how they can work with you, what's the best way for people to get in touch?
Definitely go to thedailycoach.com. daly.com. That's DALY. There's links to my 1,000 videos on YouTube, questions to help you get started to explore a franchise, free webinars, free ebooks, and of course, more information on the mindset coaching piece. And I'm so sorry if I commandeered your show today.
You made my job very easy. It was wonderful. And you can find that link in the show notes below. If you're watching on YouTube, check it. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Kim, thank you so much for sharing your story and more importantly, your energy with the audience today.
It's my pleasure, Chris. Thank you.
Hey, Chris here again. I hope you found this episode valuable. Now, I have one more thing to gift you. We have a page for my coaching clients where you can get a free copy of my book, as well as much more from previous guests on the show. Just check out nextlevelincome.com/coaching to get a free copy of my book, audiobook, and much more. I'll send you a copy of my book and cover all the shipping costs as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Also, please like, share, and take just 90 seconds to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts.